Welcome. My name is Becky Megas, she, her pronouns, and I am the founder and chief care connector for Women in Sustainability. For those that are new and just joining us, Women in Sustainability is an inclusive social and environmental justice nonprofit that is dedicated to caring for the people that care for the planet through our 4 pillars of community, advocacy, resources, and education to create a sustainable and equitable future. We strive to create a safe space for like-minded and diverse individuals to create purposeful connections and conversation. All are welcome in our community. So we're going to go get started. I'm going to turn this over to our speaker. I'm going to welcome her as a master storyteller and writer. Danielle Stewart supports and grows the mission of nonprofits, entrepreneurs, and businesses through well-researched marketing communications, PR, and consultation, and high-quality video productions. Please give a warm Women in Sustainability welcome to Danielle.
Well, hello. Thank you. That was so nice. I see some friends, which really means a lot to me, wearing my Women in Sustainability swag for today. And like Becky said, what really makes this, I've been able to teach this in different variations over the last 3 years. And really the difference taking it good to great is you. So if you are coming, what I would love to start with, I know audience participation can make some people sweat, but if you could throw into the chat your particular challenge, what you're looking for today, I'm pretty good at reading through those pretty quickly. And then if there's something I miss, offering an opportunity at the end to follow up with me. So if I am going a little too fast, I'm going nowhere. I'm here in Denver, and my contact information will be in the slides. I got to do this yesterday in Estes Park for their nonprofit resource center. And that was 2 hours and it was cram-packed. So this is definitely a truncated version. This is my favorite thing to do, to be honest. I love talking storytelling. And I like talking about the power of video. So again, I'm not going anywhere. If there's something you need that we don't touch on today, please just feel free. I'll have an opportunity for you to reach out and find time with me. And welcome everyone. As you're jumping in, I'm going to just go right into the PowerPoint, and I have the chat up in front of me, so I will be burning through that. Becky gave such a nice introduction. I do a lot of things. That's the takeaway here. This is that perfunctory slide to just say, I've done this, so you're in good hands. But I sit on a couple different boards, including the Colorado Film and Video Association, AMA Colorado, the American Marketing Association. My day job is as a director of marketing. And then I also independently produce storytelling videos. And my niche, my favorite kind of stories to talk about are trauma-informed stories with vulnerable populations that need a different kind of video storyteller to come in. I've been working in the nonprofit space for the last 7 or 8 years. Oh, there it is. For the last 7 or 8 years. And I work for a 501c6, which is kind of in between corporate and nonprofit. We have a foundation, and I'm in the middle right now of a $2.3 million capital campaign. And I only bring that up to say, I get how hard fundraising is. I get how hard audience generation is. So as we go through here, hopefully I'll get to add my lens if there are specific questions. Okay, let's jump right in. Why am I here today? I think I covered it just because I love it. I absolutely love talking story, and I like people to feel enabled and empowered to do it themselves. We start with the premise that all you have is the cell phone in your pocket, and that is an incredibly powerful tool. We'll have the opportunity to look at some here a little bit if you have a few dollars where those priority dollars should go, and then a few more options as you go out. But the premise is coming from, you know, boots on the ground, hard scrabble nonprofit work. This is really meant to focus on story craft and not about what gadgets can you order for your storytelling. Why does it matter? I don't know how many people are fans of Start With Why. If you've never seen it, go watch the 7-minute original video. It's terrible quality. It looks like they shot it in VHS. It's really short. It's not the full TED Talk length, but this is my take on why video storytelling is important. When we are engaging someone on an emotional level, and that can be humor, fun, intrigue, it's not all just dramatic storytelling. We want to engage the limbic system. This is the part of the brain responsible for things like emotion, trust, loyalty, which we want out of customers and donors alike. And it's also the part of our brain that does not have access to language. So when you say, I have a gut instinct, this is what we're doing. We're capturing the limbic system. And video is a way for you to connect, and I'll interchange video and visual storytelling. This is not ableist. I mean this to be sound. Anything that lifts your story above the written word. I call this your board of directors or your investor slide. What do you need to tell your key stakeholders? Why is it important for you to take your limited time and resources? If you're an entrepreneur, your time is incredibly limited. Here's that obligatory data slide. This is how people are consuming content, and this is growing year over year. Within the next year, it's something like 80 to 90% of all web traffic will be video related. This is just how people are consuming their information now. So what used to be a luxury, what used to be maybe something for bigger organizations or corporations, is really critical for any organization, including solopreneurs. And I know there are a lot of folks, I count myself kind of among that, but even for those folks working on their own, it is so important. What we're going to talk about, the make or break of a video really is in the planning, and it doesn't have to be complex. I have a little bit of a framework here. I have materials that go along with this. If you're interested in pursuing that later, but it's really doable. We're going to break it down into a few steps, because it doesn't matter if you have the $10,000 budget or you have the $10 budget. If you're not getting the right message to the right audience, your video won't be effective. I can't tell you how many times somebody sent me a video, their nephew did, or somebody's in film school, or God forbid, they put a lot of precious dollars into a video. And at the end of it, I have no idea what the organization does, and I have no idea what they want me to do. So we're going to keep bringing it back to that call to action. This is probably the biggest mistake that I see in small business, in nonprofit storytelling, advocacy policy, is really being structured to think about how do we capture that viewer, but how do we move them to action? Step 2, think creatively about who should tell that story. I saw there's a few foundations. I know there's a few coaches in here who work with nonprofits and small businesses and entrepreneurs alike. Who should be telling your story? And we're just going to look through a few examples to get your brain going, hopefully get the creative juices flowing. We're going to talk about, if you do nothing else, how can you set up for the prettiest, cleanest interview that you can get on a $0 to very small budget. And what does that look like? This was me shooting at Museo de las Americas on Santa Fe. So we had more gear, but the same principles will apply as we talk about this. You have to forgive me, I'm losing my voice a little bit today. So this is, if you take nothing else away from today, I'm going to say that a lot, but if you take nothing else away from today, get clear on your goal. We're going to look at a message. We're going to look at an example here a little further down the road, but whether you're a one-person team, you're a solo entrepreneur, you're a nonprofit ED, anybody that you can get to the table will make your story better. If you're in marketing, if you're in fundraising, if you're in sales, outside sales, get clear on what the goal of the video is. Is it funding? Is it a sale or special offer? Is it traffic? Because the worst thing you can do, well, no, that's not true. There are a lot of worse things you can do. But if you try to say everything to everyone, your message will be lost, and the time and effort and resources you put into your video will just be rendered ineffective. Are they goals? You know, I had someone in my class yesterday in Estes Park who was there. She was the HR director, and she wanted to know how could she start tapping into video storytelling for recruitment and retention of staff in an area where it's pretty competitive for them to find qualified staffers. Is it board members? Really expand beyond it's a sale. If what you're feeling is brand awareness, let's dig into that. Keep moving that toward refinement. Volunteers, participants, recruitment. Video can be a wonderful tool in so many different areas of your organization beyond just, I need an event sizzle reel, or I need an animated promo to get somebody in the door tomorrow. This is something that I talk about a lot. Is this like sticking in the middle? I'm sorry about that. You might be compelled to reach everyone. This does not serve you. Not everyone is in the driver's seat for every goal. That's just not how it works. Who has the greatest ability to make an impact, to affect change for what you need right now? So I'll give you an example. We're going to look at one here in a little bit. You know, if even if you have a gala, let's say you have a special event, not everyone in the room is necessarily in the driver's seat. You might have a great nonprofit and a really active YP group, and your goal is funds raised. You know, you need to look within your audience, even in a captured room, who really is in the driver's seat. Because what we're building to is this framework that I've developed on getting to your most compelling message. The reason that's important is because it really does make a difference in from whom your audience would like to hear. And I'll give you an example. One of the nonprofits that I've gotten to work with is Hope House. They serve teen moms and babies, and they have different needs. Sometimes their video storytelling or their storytelling need might be a new program available to teen moms. Who's in the driver's seat, who's really funding the organization when the goal is funding, are folks, the median age is somewhere in their 70s. Who would they like to hear from? Do you think they want to hear from staff, or do they want to see the moms and babies? And the opposite, if you have teen moms in a room, do they want to hear from your 70-year-old donor? That's a pretty extreme example. But what we're getting to is that how are we getting to the right storyteller so that this is effective? Because I'll preach this all day. Really making sure that we are strategic in how we think about even a fun video, even something that is a live video on site to drive traffic that day, or brand awareness that day. So this is helping you get to your storyteller. I gave Jeff a heads up that I was going to use them as an example, but here we are. This was an interesting case. I don't know how many people are familiar with the Reciprocity Collective. They had a program during COVID that got 6 months of talks, texts, and data and handsets into folks experiencing in the hands of people experiencing homelessness who had suddenly lost access to doctors, to any kind of information about public health and safety, who didn't have access to reach out to families. You know, people weren't sharing phones, public spaces were closed. When I talked to the executive director and I said, well, who is your target audience? And she said, everyone. And I said, what do we need to talk about? Everything. The program was built around the premise that, I don't even remember what it is, $170 sponsored one of these phones and the talk, text, and data. And when we pulled that apart, who was really in the driver's seat? Well, it wasn't funders yet. That's not how the program came to be. We pulled it apart. We figured out it was regional mid-level sales managers. And so we looked at who is that person? What do they care about? And what we saw was these people were really disconnected from making the decision to provide in-kind donations, to give a price break for this program to happen, and the people it was really impacting. So this might be one of the few videos. I do want to show this right now. And Becky, do let me know if the sound goes weird or something.
We go by whatever name you want to go by.
Okay, we're gonna go by Amy.
We're gonna go by.
Because I try to be an Amy.
Well, that's
Right.
an admirable exception, and I would imagine you pull it off pretty well. You write something that's so.
Oh my Lord.
For granted. So you have your cell phone stolen. How long ago was that?
This was when I first got back from Texas. I was clean, I had everything, and I felt good. They stole it 2 days after I got here. And so, you know, with this COVID, you can't just walk up to people and say, may I use your phone? So I haven't been able to really reach out to my family, to call my doctor, and just to do anything. You need a phone to do anything. And it's been hard. Thank you, babe. Okay, God bless you.
Yeah, and we want to hear from you.
Oh, you will. I promise you will. And I ain't got flowers.
Okay.
Imagine what your life would be like, even for a single day, without a phone, and you were just cut off. How would you stay connected? Make appointments, get information, talk to family and friends, access services like healthcare, or find employment. We take this instant connection to the world for granted. Basic human needs are defined as clothing, food, and shelter. But without a phone, all of these services and more are out of reach, making the phone itself a basic human need. A donation of $175 puts a smartphone with 6 months of full service into the hands of someone in need, to give them the dignity and empowerment of human connection.
Hello, this Mayor. I just want to say thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving me this phone. Because I was able to call my mama and my friends on their birthdays and everything. Daughter, thank you so much. Thank you so much. God bless you. Goodbye.
So I wanted to share that video because we did a couple of things, right? We were able to take somebody who is very disconnected from the story and provide a safe, ethical way for them to see the impact, that decision. You know, they have X amount of dollars that they're going to allocate that quarter for community outreach. You know, for them as checking a box. We were able to take them to the street. To be clear for anybody concerned, because this comes up sometimes, we had social workers well ahead of where we filmed. There were signs everywhere that said you don't have to be on camera to participate. They had an additional conversation one-on-one at the table with the executive director. So we made sure no one felt obligated. And if anyone felt hesitant, we just pulled the interview. But we were able to show, I don't know if you heard that, she said, I want you to follow up with us. And in the end, what you hear is the voicemail she left with the phone that she was issued. So what was the outcome? We got the most touching email from a regional mid-level sales manager who never has the opportunity to do this kind of hands-on work, at least within their work. And what they said was, you made us feel a part of something human. If we had tried, there are so many ways to tell this story. We could have talked about a million topics. If we had started with the data, if we had said, here are the statistics around people experiencing homelessness and what's happening. If we had focused on the phone or the stuff that's in the kit, you know, we would have missed the opportunity to connect with the person really in the driver's seat. So pull it apart. Of course, we want everybody to know our story. What I challenge you to think about is that As you do more of this for yourself, it will get easier and easier. And then you'll be able to do more of videos and don't need to throw in the kitchen sink. For nonprofits, I call it avoiding the annual report trap. There is a place for reporting and data for your funders and for your key stakeholders. This is not where you want to do that. There are exceptions for sure. You know, we can talk about, if anybody has questions, what is the role of an animated explainer video, which is a pretty affordable way to do something like that. But we would have missed this opportunity, and we got actual human emotion out of a sales rep, which was a pretty cool thing. How does your audience engage day to day? If I have that 20-year-old, that, let's say that 17-year-old mom from Hope House, and there's critical information about a new program I want to reach to her. If my target audience for my small boutique is 20 to 30 something women, I'm not going to be relying on Facebook to communicate my message. I'm not going to be thinking about asking someone to sit through 3 minutes or 3.5 minutes in that age range, and vice versa. You know, you may have the greatest video ever and want to put it all over social media. You really need to think about that 50, 60, 7-year-old donor or customer, wherever they fall. Are you putting it in the place that your audience consumes media already? One of the challenges that we saw during COVID, and I bet everybody here has had this experience, was that we had to start asking people who had never consumed video or streaming to come and join us somewhere that was very foreign, that wasn't comfortable maybe, and consume in a way where they just weren't used to it. I mean, I tried to start talking to Becky and I was also on mute. You know, like there are obstacles and barriers there, right? Look at where people are already consuming media. How do they already like to get their information? One of my passions is making sure that there is language equity. Are the people that you're interviewing, let's say we're talking about, oh, Becky, I just forgot the name, that wonderful independently produced film that we went to see.
A Good Neighbor.
A Good Neighbor. Let's say we were in that neighborhood and only English speaking, we would not get the best story out of the people that we were interviewing. I've done this, you know, around I've done a lot of work in refugee communities, and just think about language equity and access when it comes to abilities. Why this matters. Anything you can, this is an insider tip, anything that you can put in writing, put it on the screen and save the talk time, the visual time for the story itself. So any way that you can write it into the captions, lower thirds, make sure that you're doing that. Does your audience prefer longer form storytelling? That's your 50, 60, 7-year-old target audience. Will sit through a much longer video. They will show up they're going to sign up, they're going to show up, they're going to be there and sit through it. You know, if it's on social media, 30 to 45 seconds is really the cap, and you want to get your above the fold information into the first 5 to 10 seconds with a hook, something compelling that will get them through that. Even in an event, 3 minutes is a long time and it goes really quickly, but how do they like to hear stories? And we talked about language. So here's what we've done so far, and we're going so fast. I know. Get clear on your goals, and if you can, get buy-in from everybody on your team. Can't tell you how often that I have an idea for a story. I feel certain I have my marketing hat. I know what they need for their story. We sit down and in 5 or 10 minutes with someone who works at the front desk, someone who is a peer navigator or a services navigator, or someone doing your day-to-day sales, and they have some lightning bolt that's something you've never thought of that is going to better reach your audience. So the more people you can get to the table, the better your idea is going to be. Who's in the driver's seat? Think it through. Don't, if you find yourself saying everyone, pull that apart. Who is writing the check? Who is paying the bill? Who's moving you to whatever that goal is. Who is the person you need to come volunteer? And then we talked about it, know how your audience consumes stories, because it's very different before you sit down to shoot a video to know you need 30 seconds of content versus 3 minutes. It's a vastly different planning process. And that will get you to your most compelling message. Then you have a clear framework for how you're going to sit down and work through your story. And I'm watching the chat. If you have questions along the way, let me know. I'm going to throw out there, because I did see a few foundations, but this is as much true for small business, whether I'm shooting for an on-air broadcast commercial, if I'm doing nonprofit work. Who is your storyteller? We know who's our driver now. We know from whom they'd like to hear. That's not always possible. Sometimes you have, in all kinds of ways with sustainability, you have a vulnerable population. You might have just be in the realm that, you know, no one on the team wants to be on camera. Sometimes you have to get a little bit creative. So think about volunteers. In this case, we use someone who authentically lived in the neighborhood, also biracial, went to school a few blocks away, was the right target age range, but a trained actor instead of the HIPAA protected vulnerable population that we were telling the story of. And then we tapped into real staff and put up our filming time while the kids were at school during the school day. So we shot in between. Again, the safest, closest, most ethical and authentic way to get to a story is ideal. Cell phone submissions. There may be times where, let's say, you're out at a wind generator farm and there's a person who needs special training and equipment to climb. Put a GoPro on them. How can you get to the work that you're doing in a way that's creative and gets your audience as close to the work that you're doing as possible? GoPros also work really good for kids for whom you can't show their faces. You get their perspective. What are some of the creative ways that you can do just a little bit of training with staff? Let's say we had someone yesterday who, it was a nonprofit that supported a NICU. You don't want people walking in and filming, right? But we were able to, they can empower clinical staff. This is what we did at Senior Housing Options. And we're going to talk about how to get even a good video from that. Feature your volunteers. Most forums, if you're doing it, or customers, it's a really easy question to go, you know, we're you know, a lot of times I might pitch it like, you know, we just really want to show people the great work that you're doing. Maybe it's your own staff. What do you think about joining in? We really think you'd be a perfect fit. And really framing it with an authentic place of gratitude, a lot of people will jump in and help. I will say when I started, it was a little awkward because people still tell you no a lot. But, you know, if you're doing the work of sustainability or small business or nonprofit and you're afraid of the word no, it's gonna be a tough day. You know, feature program staff. This, I bet everybody knows WIS Cycle. They're very, I think, closely connected to women in sustainability. Their model is built on sustainability. We can't show, I'm not going to put a vulnerable parent experiencing poverty on camera, but I can put on the program coordinator who is the go-between between the service and the customer, the service and the client, and do it in a way where she can really frame the challenges and what we're solving. Involve your funders or your customers. Customer testimonials are the dream. And once you get a few under your belt, I feel like you'll be empowered to say, you know, you can even do it on Zoom. Again, the story is your most critical component. And I'm going to give you a few tips on Zoom interviews. But involve your customers, your funders. Use stereotypes or perceptions to your advantage. Can you make it funny? I don't know if anyone has seen this video. The guy is bit by a rattlesnake, I think. And he goes, oh, I'm fine. You know, my family, we don't believe in going to the doctor right away. I'm going to make it a few weeks. The guy's going, I really think you need some help. And we don't believe in that. That's not how my family does it. And the juxtaposition, right, is mental health. So this was getting people to take a funny look at the stereotype of mental health. I've done a lot of work in the foster care system, and this is true around all types of things around sustainability, right? We're faced with a lot of different kinds of challenges. How can you take that head on and make it entertaining? Instead of, a lot of times I see nonprofits, businesses, storytellers wanting to just kind of avoid it. Use it to your advantage. This is, I'm not sure we have time for this case study, but this is another example when you get the slides, if you want to watch it. This is another example of, it's a nonprofit on a mountainside. They serve veterans with PTSD. Their revenue stream is a fee-for-service experience. They also serve wolf dog hybrid rescues. So we had so many things we could talk about. Mental health, the person for whom the organization was started, one of their friends from a conflict in Afghanistan, they lost to suicide-related PTSD. We could talk about the animals. It's really easy to tell fun stories about animals. What we found was a way to if you can think of a Venn diagram, what we found, the commonality between the hybrid, and if you think about it, it's akin to equine therapy, is the way that they're developing their programming. Only it's for veterans and these dogs that have been rescued, sometimes out of abuse in bad situations. So in that Venn diagram, the story, instead of trying to speak to all of it, we found that commonality, and we didn't talk about the details of what we're selling till the very end. The commonality is trauma is not related only to the veteran community. People and animals and can have this in common, and they can have this healing experience in common. So come and join us and have this experience. I hate showing this because I'm in it. I took volunteers and they chickened out and wouldn't go in the enclosures. So it's me all over it, which is cringy. So we identified the mission. It's all over the place. They kind of came upon this wolf dog hybrid rescue after they had already started the nonprofit. And this is one way that they generate a lot of revenue. People come from all over to have this experience. I guess there are a few for-profit encounters like this. We had so many storyteller options, and certainly vulnerable veterans we approach that very carefully. There are a couple interviews in this video. We approach that very carefully, but we kept thinking about, who does the audience want to see? They want to see the dogs. So it's a lot of voiceover with B-roll. That is to say background video where you're hearing your storyteller and seeing the encounter, the experience playing over the screen as you're hearing the story of the nonprofit. Their audience is really diverse. This is something I didn't know this was a thing until I went. And we had a lot of challenges, and it worked because of planning. So terrain, outdoor, filming with wolves, the if you see them, I mean, it is like the story of, is it Little Red Riding Hood? With his teeth so big, their heads are like half the size of my body. They're massive animals, and we work through it. So even if you feel like there's a challenge that you have that's special to your nonprofit, always feel free to reach out and ideate, get other people to the table. How can you be creative in how you tell that story? Setting the scene. So these are my insider tips and tricks for filming with people. We're going to talk about a few options, but natural light is always best. So if you have a whole building at your disposal, find the room with the most windows. It will always look better with natural light. Lighting, even with a crew, is hard. There is a lot of physics involved, and that's why I hire smarter people than me to come and help me. The best thing you can do, just scout, even if it's your own office, even if it's your own living room. think about it in terms of having a microphone on. So at the same time of day, with the, so the traffic is the same, foot traffic is about the same. See what things you might need to overcome. One of my biggest enemies in this world are water fountains. They're so loud, and they're often like same thing with HVAC. And a lot of times, we had a lot of governments yesterday in my class. Somebody has the keys, and it's like a 14-step process to get through the bureaucracy so somebody can turn the air conditioning off. Go at that time of day with the environment with that lens. And if it helps, just take out your phone and put on the voice memos and record the sound. When we filmed this, we had been there twice already scouting. It was a big project. And literally we went the same time, but finally we're there where we were quietly, they call it we were taking temperature, we were taking sound in the room. And anytime you took a deep breath, those boards creaked so loudly that it was almost deafening. So then when we came to film, we took blankets, we had pads on the floor, we found ways to mitigate the sound. It's just different when you're thinking about filming. Are you away from traffic? I always joke, I'm not an ambulance chaser. Ambulances chase me. Every time I get the best part of an interview, it never fails. There's an airplane or the fire truck or the ambulance goes by, but whenever you can, just be really aware of that. So we talked about scouting. Even if you're self-taping, you're a solopreneur, you're a coach, get out from behind the desk. Just be in a space that's more interesting. If you're using a ring light, it's always ideal to be a few feet off a wall, even if you're filming yourself, so that you can avoid ways of capturing harsh shadows. So think about how you can get up, even in your own office. I did a domestic violence nonprofit. I did their video last fall. It's a relatively tiny place. So we even just took different people and positioned them around the room so that even in that small room, the background was different and interesting for each of our interviews. What I will say, I don't know if people work with kiddos, it's always best. I mean, I don't know an instance you wouldn't, but bring colors, bring juice box. If you're using a volunteer kiddo, which we do a lot, make sure ask the real parent to be a stand-in volunteer or be on set, because kids are just always more comfortable around their parents. Give them something to do and play with where they're not looking to the camera, whether that's a for-profit, nonprofit. You're talking about impacts of sustainability efforts in public spaces. Try to have parents there or real friends, like people from their real life, and you'll always get better footage. I realize this is a sustainability group. Please don't come after me. Any way that you're available to have water for people, just get dry mouth. They're under lights, they get warm. Try to have water available to your guests. Here's my big disclaimer. We're going really fast because we're down to like the last 9 minutes. You do not need gear to tell a great story. I have given you 3 years worth of, or 4 and gajillions of videos worth of tips that will make your planning such that you're talking to the right person with the right storyteller, with the right message. So before you even step in that day, you are so well equipped to where even some production companies get started. You do not need gear, but if you're looking for a few ways to increase the quality of your storytelling, I'm going to just give you a few. I certainly have been in the nonprofits where I didn't have $5 to spend, and I completely understand that. What we have now in our pockets with cell phones is so powerful. Almost every I was shooting on an iPhone 7 and 8 until just this last year, but it could still shoot in 4K, and I could still come out with great video, sharp imaging that was engaging with that cell phone. This is just my personal setup. Ask questions if you might. A $20 tripod, a lightweight tripod, all come with a plate on the top. And if there's one thing you can afford for yourself, that's about $20 from That Which Must Not Be Named. Maybe Simple Switch has one. and then a $6 cell phone holder. It screws into the top of the tripod. Just that steady image, you're not holding it, you're not moving it, really increases the quality. They're on springs. They sell them at Mike's Camera. You just snap it onto the top. And even if you need to move, having that tripod act as a on-the-go stabilizer is really helpful. Oh, I do have the note in here. Ideally, you want a cell phone holder with a cold shoe mount. That means that you can take any number of generic lights or microphones. Cold shoe meaning it's not electronically connected to your camera the way a flash mounted on a digital SLR would be. But a lot you can get just the cell phone holder if you can find it, find a cold shoe mount. That was that which must not be named. So the second most important, if you need books, I have stacked books on a desk in a room, got a trash can and books, and like found a way to get a straight on of a picture that I could. And then it's not moving. It's not me shaking and talking. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a little animated. So, just find some way to put it on a flat surface. If there's a second thing that you can invest in, I would really encourage you to think about sound. The sound from a video, very accessible. Powered to WIS, you can find good lapel mics. That's what that's called. Clips onto your lapel, a lavalier. If Powered to WIS is amazing, it's about $40. There's a good option around the $20 price point. It's called Pop Voice. When you're ready, I talked about the cold shoe mount. This is the microphone that I use. It's a Rode mic. Rode is a brand. You can see it there. They kind of make the industry standard in microphones. If you see any of these fun talking, walking, stand-up crowd work, everybody has a Rode handheld mic, and that's what they're using when they're going back and forth. But a cold shoe mount, you can put even on your little rig here. And then you're also not risking somebody with a lavalier like bumping it as they're talking, because it'll turn out the same way. You're gonna have the best interview of your life or the best sound bite, and somebody's like subconsciously sort of messing and you can't hear what they're saying. If you're at a point, sometimes technical folks join these calls, or marketing folks. I love the Rode GoPro 2. This is the most expensive thing that I've talked about, or probably will. But they're like a chip clip, and they are amazing sound. So if you're looking for that next level, you can just clip it on your subject. Then you're also not, if you have a population that is sensitive to being touched, because sometimes you have to adjust a lapel mic. It's great. They can just clip it on themselves, and the sound is incredibly reliable. If there's a third thing that you can invest in, everything you see here ranges from $15 to, I think the Loom Cube is $75. Everybody and their sister got a ring light during COVID, but they can actually work really well for filming interviews. It can be enough diffused light that you just brighten up that picture, and it's about $15. This I got at Mike's Camera. This is one I use. Again, all of these have cold shoe mounts so that they'll clip into my $26 setup, right? But then I'm able to add a little light, a little diffused light for not a lot of money. A Loom Cube is pretty powerful, but it is really awesome. I was shooting in Vegas in October or November, and I had my little on-the-go rig, and a film crew walked by from the Discovery Channel and had the Loom Cube. It doesn't have to be the most expensive big thing. I did feel like my rig was a little bit puny as these guys walked by me. but I had the same stuff, right? It doesn't have to be the most expensive thing. This is my upgraded version. This is one that I teach in my classes, one I use, because it in total has 7 cold shoe mounts. So if you find that you're ready to add a mic and a light, a mic and a couple lights, think about, this is still just a cell phone, and it still has the same mount and goes on my $20 tripod. I talked about I think these might even be out of date because every 10 minutes, right, our operating systems change. They change the GUI, they change where things are. But both Androids and iPhones, it's like a single toggle to switch what you're recording into 4K. What you're giving up is space, right? When you get a phone out of the box, they want you to get as many pictures, photos, videos on that camera as possible. Certainly when you're shooting in 4K, I usually set mine to 4K 60 frames per second. That's a lot of space. So, you know, a lot of times, even my own personal camera, I'll just put everything I can on the cloud in the days before so that I have as much available hard disk space as possible. This is the, I'm sorry, this is the Android view. It really is just a single switch. And it can be a really good option for you. These cameras are insane compared to, you know, what even used to be a professional rig or a professional camera. So we've talked about a lot of different things really, really, really fast. We didn't cover editing platforms today. There are a million options. What I like to suggest, a lot of people are comfortable with Canva. A couple of years ago, VCs poured $10 or $20 million, maybe it was even more, into Canva so that they could get a WYSIWYG video editor. And for nonprofit, it's a really affordable option. But if you're ready for that next thing, you know, PCs have their own basic video editor. Apples have iMovie. If you're a marketing person and you're already used to that, Adobe Rush is a good option. It comes with your Creative Suite license, and that's a good next step editor. So we didn't get to talk about that, but hopefully this has given you some ideas in how you're getting ready to tell your story. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. My information, favorite color, you know, cats' names will be at the end of the slides. I'll make sure Becky gets that. Are there any questions that I didn't cover? Because that was so much content.
Yeah, that was amazing though. I could sit and listen to you for the next like 5 hours.
I won't make you.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions? That was a lot. Anything that you kind of came and you're like, I'm really, really curious, and we can go a couple minutes over as well. So yeah, questions, feel free to unmute or pop that into the chats or raise your hand, whatever you feel comfortable with.
I always accidentally set off the hand raise just because I'm like,
yeah. What are some podcasts and or books that you would recommend?
podcasts and or books. I mean, honestly, a lot of what I've learned, if you're not sure how to do it, is just Google tutorials. Every platform under the sun has their own resource library. Even if you're just getting started with the basics, somebody and 10 people behind them have created a YouTube video. So just be willing to even start with, what is the thingy called? You know, like there's a lot of that goes on, right? There's something that is a good technique called the Ken Burns effect. Most video editors have it. If you have somebody talking about their experience as a child, you know, as Ken Burns would do, it's a still photo that pans across. I have to look it up every time. I use it 3 times a month and I have to look it up every time. But, you know, animated explainers are great options. Ken Burns effect. These are ways to get around. You don't have the time or resources to go out and shoot B-roll.
Yeah,
And just Google the tutorial.
what about the storytelling side? Anything suggesting there?
Oh yeah, one of my favorite books, I have a couple and they're not groundbreaking. The Power of Habit is one of my all-time favorite books, and that's because there is so much consumer psychology that it has shaped the way that I tell stories. Because I'm thinking about the processes of the brain. It's such an interesting look at the brain. and how decisions are made, how loyalty is built, how trust is built. My sister did tell me I made a habit out of talking about the power of habit. And so I've tried to reel it back in. But I love that book. That's Charles Duhigg, I think.
We just posted it, correct, yep. I just posted the link in chat too.
Of course, start with why. At Kid Glove, so I work as a story producer at Kid Glove. Even just watching other, listening to podcasts you really love, what is it you love about it? So pause every couple minutes, they have a pause. Was it an introduction? Did they start with a soundbite? Break it down a little bit and look at it as a roadmap to how you might frame your own storytelling. Even if, you have a shorter time format, break it down. Like I did this exercise as a student in writing that was to mimic your favorite writer. And so you really had to parse it down. And that's a really great exercise for learning the kinds of storytelling that you want to be doing.
Yeah, I love that thing. Sorry, I've got a really big truck that's making a lot of noise. I'm going to add in, I'm just finishing up Stories That Stick. As
yes.
Pretty much like on par with everything that you said when it came to the storytelling side. I was like, oh yeah, I just learned that one. And yes, Amazon is a place to buy a lot of this stuff. But also check, like, I know I have bought stuff from Amazon too. So Walmart, I know, has a lot of the tripod stuff. Check the Buy Nothing groups and Facebook. I know there's a ton of things that sometimes if you're at the right time, you can find stuff selling a lot of this equipment on Facebook, especially because people bought a lot of this during COVID and now they're not utilizing it, right? A lot of people have gone back to work or aren't doing what they started during COVID. So there's always the resources out there too to kind of, if you have the time, research a little bit.
Oh yeah, I love buying used. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I actually just learned that Amazon actually has like a whole like used marketplace.
It's amazing. I use
no
the heck
idea.
out of.
I had no idea. And Best Buy has an outlet place too. So you can get a lot of this stuff from like an outlet, like Best Buy outlet.
Part of it is you're going to find what you like as you do it. And so the last thing you want to do is invest $3 or whatever $100 and then go, well, this isn't how I like to do it. So that's another vote for used or borrowing. In video, we borrow from each other all the time. So borrowing it to see if you even like it enough. But
yeah, I love that. Any other questions? You mentioned a class. Do you teach this?
yes. So I have a couple classes that are available anytime on Charity How To. Again, I work as a podcast story producer, but the Charity How To is really where you can find really longer, more niche, more in-depth. One of the biggest questions I always have is, okay, I know how to set up an interview where the image is stable and maybe I've got a lapel mic. How do I get a story out of that? Those are things that I teach in these courses that again, developed over time. You also get tons of bonus materials, like an actual worksheet, things that you can take and break apart and print, and that I've developed, over the last 3 years and taught hundreds and hundreds of people with those materials. I don't like to plug that, but I also try to, when I can, do 30-minute consultations or ideation sessions. Sometimes that's all you need to just get started with someone who can come in and help you think about your storytelling challenge from a different perspective.
Yeah, just getting that confidence, I think, is part of it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I really believe everyone can and should learn this for themselves, for whatever your efforts are, and feel empowered to do so. It's not about the gear.
Yeah, I love that. Any other questions? I have one more. We'll wrap up. I know we're at 1:30, so if anybody needs to go, thank you for joining us today. We will send out a follow-up with all of these resources as well as information and the presentation. So you'll have all of that. Please get in contact with Danielle because this is great information and you can learn so much. So if anybody has any questions, I do. Our last final question for our speakers always is, what do you see looking into your crystal ball? What do you see as the future for sustainability overall? And that can be through your lens that you have through your career or anything in general.
The reason I have hope, one, I have a 20-year-old, and I know how differently he is thinking than even people my age. I'm 42. And I can see in them the desire to find sustainable solutions and think about it not as an addendum or an add-on, but as a part of the original creation, be it product, service, film, that is part and parcel for them in the way that they're looking at challenges. And that gives me a lot of hope. What I see right now, that we just have to overcome this disconnect from one another, this discord in society, sustained white supremacy that is creating violence and misunderstanding. And so I think through the power of storytelling and the ability, even through tech, to bring people into the experience of others, I think that there's hope in how we can more sustainably just exist as humans with one another. That's my perspective on that.
Whew, that's a great perspective. Amazing. Please help me give a round of applause. Thank you so much for being here today. As a thank you from Women in Sustainability, we will be planting trees in your name. And so I will send you a certificate with your trees. And thank you. Please follow up. Get involved in the conversation, do videos. Maybe we can start like a little group of people who want to shoot videos, and we can help and support each other and give give good criticism and feedback to support one another. I personally am going down a whole video world right now, so I know it's very challenging. And I will say, when people comment about it on TikTok, don't listen to them. Who cares? They're trolls. That is what their whole purpose in life is for. So keep going, keep doing, keep getting your message out. Thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate you so much. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us. womeninsustainability.org, upcoming events.